Yeah, we'll show them. It'll be really cool. Yeah. All right. I'm Michael Jordan with AB Friendly Company in Cheyenne, Wyoming. You're down at our underground meadery, down in the basement of our brewing facility that we do homemade mead making. We want to do a new one. We're going to introduce a new honey and talk about one that's going to be kind of cool that's coming up that we won't be able to show you, but we're going to be doing it for another experimental thing that's going to be really cool. Today we're going to be making a raspberry honey. It's the nectar from raspberries. That this was a premium one that we got through from Winter Park Honey. It's out of Winter Park, Colorado. That they supplied us with a raspberry honey that we wanted to try. They said, "Hey, we would like you to try one of our honeys, man. That we have a purebred one that's all raspberry nectar." So I said, "Heck yeah, man! It's a darker one, but it does kind of have like an amber color to it, which is kind of cool." So we'll be able to show you that we're going to be doing 2 pounds of this with you. So basically, I have my thing here. It says 2 pounds of raspberry honey, 1 gallon of water, pack of Red Star yeast, uh, my balloon for my airlock, my hydrometer, my temperature gauge, our tube to do our hydrometer testing, and our coffee pot method that we use that just basically put the water in a coffee pot. Some people are using steamers. Warm your water up. It's able to dissolve your honey a lot better. And I guess we can get started. This was our apricot cinnamon. Cleared up really nice. Huge cinnamon smell with it, right? I'm hoping the apricots go in really good. That will have a good flavor in the back end. Ooh, a little burner. A little bit of a burner. Lots of cinnamon. Remember, the Red Star yeast eats all the sugar out. I'm getting lots of cinnamon, but it's blended out nice with the apricot. I'm not getting a lot of the apricot taste with it. Might have to add another can of apricot. If you've seen how we did our apricot cinnamon mead, might want to add another can to it to kind of get it blend out a little bit. But man, it's got huge legs in it that it came out. I imagine I think this was around 12%, so that's pretty good for what we were doing. But I guess we can get started with all this. That we're going to take our lid off our jug. As always, keep the lids for your jugs. And we're going to add our honey to it. Now, I don't know if this is crystallized or not. I didn't open it. I didn't check. Like I said, they sent this to us for us to try. Looking forward to it. Our buckwheat honey was really dark, and this is kind of a darker honey, but it's kind of got a like a red color to it. So we'll see how it goes. A little thick. I should have probably heated this up a little bit by boiling water, turning the stove off after it boils, opening the tops of these open, and letting them sit to decrystallize them here a little bit. But it's running pretty good. I see that they're using plastic containers too, that it's easy to push and sieve them out. Remember, when the honey goes to the smallmouth jug, give it a little room, so that way the honey doesn't get the air bubble coming up and running down the side of your jug, because that's just horrible, having all your honey down your jug and you're missing it. This is micro mead making. Anything a gallon and less is micro mead making. Anything a gallon and more is small batch mead making. And anything over 5 gallons is large batch mead making. So we're going to be doing a micro mead. I got my hot water here already going. Now the reason I talked about the amber looking color is because I'm going to show you something later on that is super cool. And in the beekeeping world, right, it's good to reach out, meet other beekeepers, and to do some seriously cool stuff, because It makes a big difference in what you do as a beekeeper, as a honey producer, as well as a mead maker. And you see we got a little bit of the honey at the bottom of these. One reason for the hot water. I'll dissolve that honey here a little bit. Remember, that's why we always keep our lids. And I might even save these jars to refill so I have 1 pound jars so I can make small batch meads. Now what I'm using is the hot water inside here, and I'm breaking down the rest of that crystallization and getting it all out. Now it may take just a little bit, right? Because if your honey's crystallized, see how it sits at the bottom? Right? We want to get that all out. We want that broke down and dissolved. If you're doing the drinking game, we're doing the shake, right? So here's your opportunity to have a taste of your mead. And just to kind of get things going here a little bit, I am going to dump some of my water inside of here because this honey's really crystallized. So if you hear some stuff in the background, it's the coffee pot going because I want to get this warmed up enough to break down my honey. So I am going to add another batch. Watch the steam. But I'm going to get some water going through that to make sure that we get all this broke down. It's breaking it down, but you got to have the water warm enough because I still have another jug that we're going to have to go through. I can kind of see, we might be able to get a little more out, but it's crystallized pretty much at the bottom. Like I said, I should have checked these out a little bit more. You boil water. When the water gets to a rolling boil, turn off your stove or your burner or whatever you're using, and that way you can take these and put them in, roll and twist. That way the honey doesn't roll over. But I like to take the lids off, set them in the water, and over a period of time they'll uncrystallize and they'll be really good, and it doesn't kill the enzymes, the flavors, and everything that are in the honey. The coffee pot's already going. There it goes. There it all goes. See, it just takes a little bit of time. Don't give up. All right. As you've seen, we've done a lot of things. How we know the honey fills out over the top is we've done it. When you're pouring out adjuncts and they get in your hydrometer reading, it happens, right? So take your time. Enjoy this a little bit, man. We do things kind of fast because we've been doing it for a while. But we're able to get all that honey out of that jar now. Permaculture, recycle, reuse. So we'll probably be doing that. I got some hot water going right here. Let me dump this in this jug. Put that back in. Now, if you're using plastic containers, give them a little squeeze because the honey in the hot water is going to make a steam and it's going to puff that right back out. Got to be careful when you use glass ones because it'll kind of breach out and kind of come out as you're using it. One reason why I like the plastic containers. But if your water is warm enough, it'll break it down really good and fast. It'll puff out those plastic containers, and when you open up, it'll go right in your face. Now, I don't know how the drinking game goes. A couple people wrote in and talked about it. Every time I shake or do a jostle, they're having a drink. I don't know if they're drinking the whole time that I'm shaking because then they're drinking probably a couple bottles. But every time that we do a shake or a jostle, have a drink, right? That you're watching us do this, you should enjoy this. Man, I'm getting Lots of cinnamon taste after that apricot. That's pretty cool. Now that we've warmed up a little bit, you can see it's really eating the honey really faster. That's what we want. Make sure your lids are tight. You don't want that all over you. As you can see, we hardly ever make a mess. If you've been watching our videos, we barely make a mess at all, right? There's not a lot of stuff spilling out. Doesn't take much to make a mess when you're doing this. All dissolved, all ready to go. I'm gonna wash these out. I like these 1 pound jars. Those are pretty nice. Coffee pots ran through. Might as well add that in there. I usually try to use anywhere from 2 to 4 cups of hot water, depending on how crystallized things are. One reason why you save your lids, right? Because now we're going to dissolve all that honey. Now we put 2 pounds of raspberry nectar honey. That it's raw, pure raspberry nectar honey. And you want it all dissolved just like that, man. Super easy to do. All right, now we're going to add our water. Now this doesn't have to be cold water, but make sure you're not using tap water. If you do, let it aerate out a little bit. Heck, even water from the dollar store is better. We prefer to get water from our retreat in the mountains of Wyoming. That we have a retreat up in the mountains that has a natural spring. Man, it's super great to just drink fresh out of the ground. And we use it usually for our meads. Right to the top. When this all settles out, we should have about our inch of gap at the top for fermentation and bubbling to watch it make it happen. As you can see, it doesn't have the red amber, more of a peach color, which is super cool. I'm going to put my lid on it, knock down those bubbles there. It's just swirling up. Super cool. I just like to watch this. As a person, I think you should just kind of enjoy what you're doing and not worry about what you're making as much. That I really enjoy making meads. We're going to take a hydrometer reading right now. Don't fill it to the top. That way it doesn't go overflowing when we put our hydrometer reader in. This gives us our potential alcohol reading that when it floats up, it shows what we start at. When it drops down to the bottom, it shows us that we've eaten all the alcohol content in it, or all the sugars, giving us the alcohol. If you don't know how yeast works, the sugars are eaten by yeast. It burps out CO2 and kind of pees alcohol. So you're drinking pee, right? Just kind of let you know. But remember, for every pound of honey you put in, you're getting an average of 5% alcohol when it's all dissolved and used. So this should be starting out at hopefully around 9 to 10%, depending how well we've dissolved the honey in it. Some of the honey might stay at the bottom. Then when the yeast hits the bottom, you'll have activation. That's why you do aeration. About every 30 days, give your jug a shake. Get the aeration going. Let the yeast try to dissolve as much honey as they can. All right, so we're going to give this a spin. And we are at point zero. Come on, one more turn here. Point zero. One, oh, it's 1.060. Write that down. And that's around 8%. So we're looking at a potential of 8% alcohol, which isn't bad at all. All right, let's see what we got here for temperature. That way we're able to add our yeast and stuff to it to get the fermentation going. I like my fermentation, if you haven't seen. I like my temperature around 75, 78 degrees. 68 to 78 is premium. Some people go to about 85. As the temperature drops, acclimation of your room does a lot for yeast, and also the altitude that you brew from. So those are a lot of things to think about when you're going. All right, let's see what we got here for temperature. Oh, I'm at the high end because we had the high out. We're at about 77 to 78 degrees, which is just perfect that I like to drop my yeast in to get the yeast to really start to going to do the fermentation. Take your scissors, cut the top. All right. I pour this back in to kind of help mix the thing. You know, that way I'm leaving my sugars and stuff back into my jug. That's one of the primary reasons that this would have some of the honey and the sugars back in. Some people are like, oh, I just pitched that out. You know, you already did stuff with it. I wash this stuff under hot water in a dishwashing machine. Everything that you see that we use goes through a dishwasher. This is glass, right? That we use glass for everything that we do. That way we can wash it. If this was plastic and you wash it, it'd crack and go through because the hot, we're killing everything that we can when we go to use this. But you see, I still got a little bit of room. A little bit of water isn't going to hurt it. I want to keep that so I have at least that enough gap so fermentation happens. We've got our yeast in it. Let's give it the jostle to make sure that the yeast is mixed in so we can really start a good fermentation right off the bat. Look at that, looks good, huh? Put our airlock on it. Oh, and you just made a raspberry nectar mead, all raw, raspberry honey. Super cool, right? I really thank Park City, Utah Honey for sending us some to try. Hey, if you are a beekeeper and you want us to try a honey that you have, like I said, we produce clover honey and wild honey, but I mean, we're really looking for some really exotic honeys, man. That if you're towards the avocado fields and you have all avocado honey, send me some. I'll put it here on our videos. We'll let it use. And I wanted to just say that because I have a friend named Dan who went to Hawaii. That we helped him get some internships in Montana. He ended up going to Hawaii. He worked at a bee yard in Hawaii, and he's given us Hawaiian blood honey. And it comes from a special flower there that they usually blend as wildflower, but because he worked for the facility, they make some just for their employees. And he sent us 3 pounds of blood honey from out of Hawaii. If you come to the University of Wyoming's Bee College here in 2019, you're going to see us brew and use this. We'll talk about the flower, the nectar, and everything and where it came from. But the honey is a bright, bloody red. And I'm really looking forward to making a mead with this. Thanks, Dan W., for sending us this honey. That, man, I am looking totally at making a cool mead with this. And the flavor from it that we tasted and tested was super great, man. So it came from Hawaii. It was, man, I'm like super proud of trying to make it and make it into a good mead. But I'm Michael Jordan. with AB Friendly Company out of Cheyenne, Wyoming. This is the Underground Meadery. Hopefully you're learning some cool stuff from us and trying. Subscribe, share this, like this, give us some comments, give us some feedback. That we try to do as much as we can to accommodate small mead makers on small batch mead making and stepping out of the box. And it's not books that you read and stuff. It's the practical experience that you use. Sometimes you have failures. Sometimes you have big wins, right? This is our apricot cinnamon that you saw us make in a previous video. This one is actually aged for 1 year. And man, it is super great. I thank you guys for tuning in and enjoying us down here at the Underground Meadery.